Hi, I'm Yanni. I live in Alhambra, California, and I identify as queer.
Can't stop the feeling, feeling. Can't stop the feeling, it's moving me. Can't stop the feeling, feeling. Can't stop the feeling, it's
Hi, my name is Ashley Chen, and I'm a second-generation Burmese Chinese American.
My name is Rogel Zamora, and I am a Filipino bisexual male.
I'm Nate Song. I'm a fourth-generation Japanese, Korean, Asian American.
My name is Logan. I'm 21 and identify as non-binary transmasculine.
My name is Annie. I currently go to Occidental College. I am a sophomore and my major is geology.
I'm Jessica Shum. I'm Chinese American and I am trans female, and I prefer the pronouns her and she. I was born in upstate New York in Binghamton. It was quite the whitewashed town. I went to elementary school in Calvin Coolidge Elementary School, and I faced some bullying growing up as a Chinese American.
I grew up in Central California, so that was a bit of a shocker to move to Temple City and to see such a homogenous community.
I grew up in South Pass, but my family mostly frequented Alhambra and Arcadia because it had all the Chinese markets.
Eventually we moved to New York City, and we lived in Staten Island, which is like the dump of the place. I usually took like a 2-hour trip to get to school from Staten Island because I had to take a bus, a ferry, and then another bus, and then walk a bit.
I think I first knew I was queer when I was in high school. I definitely didn't talk to anyone about it. Was not out at all, and so I think I spent a lot of time on the internet.
I've always been kind of tomboyish, never really into dresses or skirts. I guess around the time when I started to figure out that I wasn't quite like the rest of my peers, I started feeling a little bit more uncomfortable with the community.
I had a lot of free time on those treks, and at some point I thought about my identity, who I am, what I wanted to do, and I knew that at some point I needed to transition.
I started learning more about the LGBTQ community, and the more that I explored that and the more that I explored myself and how I actually wanted to dress, it kind of just became more and more clear.
I'd felt this earlier, but because of how broken up my house life was when I was growing up, I didn't really address the issues until high school. During this whole mess, I was dealing with normal high school problems and had a whole slew of health problems too. Like, I was suffering from alopecia. I lost all of my hair, including my eyebrows, and I was really stressed in my home life. Eventually, I went to college, and after a year, I figured out that I didn't quite fit in, that I really couldn't handle life living in a male persona that I didn't really believe in.
I don't know, it was very surprising for me, and it also created sort of this really shy, I don't want to talk to anyone vibe. So when I got to Temple City, I never really explored any of my, things we should be exploring, like sexuality, gender, whatever it is. Like, I just fell into stereotypes and I just simply kept it that way.
For a long time, I identified as lesbian and as female, but I guess the more that I learned about the trans community and just terms in general, I realized that I'm not cis, and I connected more with the term transmasculine and also the term non-binary.
Like a lot of people that are trans, I try to fit in. I learned how to fight. I tried to do super manly things to compensate, and all it did was make it hurt more until I just dropped out and came out here to California, to LA.
So that's sort of my experience with Temple City. But after moving here, everything really did change.
I think the interesting thing about my high school experience is that a lot of my friends from high school ended up being queer and are out now, but at the time we never talked about it, which I think speaks to kind of how isolating it can be growing up in the San Gabriel Valley.
I kind of just let people like catch on, really. There wasn't really a coming out for me. It was just sort of like, all right, I think she's cute, or I think he's cute, whatever. And then like people would kind of be like, oh, okay, she's bi. And that's like kind of how I identified when I was in high school, probably like my freshman or sophomore year.
I was not out at all in high school, and I think before going to college I had a lot of expectations about what my life would be like, just hoping to be able to be more out and open about who I was. But shortly after I started college, I got into a relationship that lasted nearly my first 3 years of college.
So when I was a junior, there was this girl that I really dug, and she asked me like, hey, do you want to go to LA Pride this weekend? And I was like, yeah, totally sure, like I'd love to. I've never been.
And for the most part it was pretty closeted. I think we were both not at a place where we felt comfortable being out and open. And I think it was kind of one of those things where it was like, this is great, I want people to know about it, but I also don't want to be out because that's scary.
I did come out to my parents some years ago, and actually came out to them again last year, but it's just been a constant state of denial and pretending.
When you're in a relationship, you know, even if one person wants to come out, that means implications for the other person, and so I think that's just kind of a difficult thing to navigate.
I was sitting at a buffet with my mom and my aunt, and in like the midst of eating, I told my mom like, hey mom, I'm gonna go to LA Pride tomorrow. And she was like, wait, what is that exactly? And then I said, oh, it's like there's gonna be like a parade, it's like this whole like gay pride fest and everything, it's gonna be cool. And my mom was like, okay, sure, whatever, go. But my aunt immediately just like blew up, and she was like, wait, what are you gonna do? Like, what? Please don't do that.
Coming out, I think, was just really such a struggle because I didn't have the words in Burmese. When I came out to them, it was mostly in English. I think I just said I'm gay, and even that was really hard. I think I had thought they already knew, and so I was kind of surprised that they didn't.
In their eyes, I'm still their precious little child girl, and apparently I still want to date boys, which I not really, no.
She told me like, no, you're not gonna go to LA Pride, you're gonna go to church with me. So upon arrival, I was there sitting in the audience with my aunt, and the pastor came up to the mic and he was like, oh, you may know Brianna. She's sitting in the audience right now, but she's someone that we need to pray for. She's dealing with a little thing called homosexuality.
They were just really shocked. I think they were kind of disappointed. It was very emotional, and I think just all of these things added together, but with the language barrier on top of it, just made things really difficult.
By this time, I was pretty much like tearing up. Like, it really hurt. I kind of really like wanted to cry, but I was like, okay, you need to hold it together. And they were just like pretty much like singing songs and praying for me. And you know, like I didn't know exactly what to do, but at the end of it all, they kind of just gave me notes and letters and saying like, oh, man shall not lie with man, or like woman shall not lie with woman. And it was, I don't know, it was just really heartbreaking.
A few days after my graduation, my mom had said she wished I had waited until after to tell them, which I think it was really hurtful for me, because basically I felt like what she was saying was that coming out had overshadowed the graduation, which was supposed to be a really happy day for them, but was one that they couldn't enjoy.
But you know what, like, I don't know, this year I went to LA Pride with that chick 3 years later, so what's up?
My twin brother has known, it turns out he's known that I used to cross-dress, and he just, I guess because we're twins, he just knew. I asked him, how did you know? He just said, I knew. I've known for a long time. I'm beginning my coming out process after a lifetime of gender dysphoria. It felt like I should have been born a girl, but I wasn't. But my buddies, I think maybe because we've gone through so much growing up together, we got tattoos together and we would party and cruise and try to be tough. And I think they have a hard time reconciling that.
Prior to dating my ex-boyfriend, who I was with for 3.5 years, we were actually best friends. We actually met through our string orchestra my second year, part of my high school's music program. We got really close, especially with our experiences walking together to our mutual friends' debut practice, debut being sort of like the quinceañera for the Filipinos.
My partner right now, he chased me for months, and I would continuously deflect him because I would be like, I don't believe in relationships.
I was married. We didn't have it together, ourselves or as a couple. I thought I was in love. I think I was. I hope they were too, but it didn't work. And I now realize that I've never been in a good relationship because of my gender issues. I was never able to deal with them, and so I was never happy.
So the thing about polyamory for me in the beginning, when I first discovered that was what I wanted to identify as, was the fact that, you know, how committed relationships work. And it was very, very difficult for me to wrap my head around the fact that I could still have a committed relationship even though I am polyamorous, because for the first few months after I discovered that I was polyamorous, I would basically go around shaming relationships and being like, this is not what you're supposed to do.
And having spent so much time together walking there, I would skateboard over to his house and we walked together. We got to know each other really well. And how we got together was one night we were hanging out at the park nearby my house. My
ex-wife knew I was a cross-dresser, and she tried to understand, but she really couldn't. So we decided, let's try family counseling. And that night, when it was time to go, she said, well, honey, I think you should go by yourself because it's your problem.
It does mean a lot to me that I can love him a different way than I love everyone else. And it's just also people say that, you know, polyamory, oh, what if you cheat on them? What if you find someone you love more? It's just that when you go into a committed relationship as a polyamorous person, you just understand that if they will be there for you, you must be there for them. And if it makes you unhappy, then you must tell them immediately.
He was waiting for a call or a message of some sort from his stepdad, who was out with his younger sisters at the park. Nobody else was home and he didn't have a key to house.
And I was just always so afraid of telling anybody that, I mean, God's sake, I mean, I think I present as kind of a guy, a male guy, and what woman, I was thinking, what woman would be able to handle the fact that I want to be, or I feel like a woman too.
He ended up coming back to my house, having dinner with me and my family, and we ended up, at the end of the night, going up to my room, just talking and getting close, and things just happened from there.
So at this point, I'm just going to try to keep going forward and stop looking back, because looking back hasn't gotten me anywhere.
So in 2008, when Prop 8 was on the ballot, I just remember there being a lot of anti-LGBT sentiment in the San Gabriel Valley. I live in Temple City and was living with my parents at the time, and I just remember driving around and seeing so many of those yellow yes on Prop 8 signs everywhere. There were literally like maybe 10 per block. And I rarely saw a no on Prop 8 sign, which I think is just kind of indicative of where the community was at the time. 2004, there was a really huge anti-gay marriage rally in Alhambra that was organized by Chinese American churches and the SGV. And I think that was just a really difficult environment to be around and to grow up in. But I think we've come a long way. Just recently, this past July, we heard about another rally that was planned protesting the Supreme Court's marriage equality decision.
There were going to be 8 different churches to demonstrate against the same-sex marriage bill. A bunch of us got together to counter-demonstrate, to show people that we didn't agree with their stance.
Some organizations, API Equality LA, along with Advancing Justice LA, organized a counter rally, and were able to turn out over 100 people. We had about 2 days notice, and I think it's really great how many people we were able to get to show up for this cause.
Local politicians, school board members, members of the medical community, Asian Americans, and some not. Clergy was represented at our rally. We outnumbered them like 3 or 4 to 1.
And just kind of shows how much progress we've made in the last 7 or so years.
Some of our leaders went across the street to talk to them, and I just hope they realize and maybe learn something that day, that you can't just spew your propaganda and your deal without an answer. I felt really good that in my own backyard we came together and let them know that no, you just can't do this and walk away. Not everybody agrees with you.
I think it was just really inspiring to see so many people come together for this cause. First time I had ever seen any event like that in the San Gabriel Valley. And in the future, I would love to see more of those events and more spaces of support and community for queer API folks. And I think what that rally showed is that the support is here, and that there are people who are interested and willing to come out. And so I'm looking forward to cultivating more of those spaces and building that community here in the SGV. So I think one message that has been pushed a lot by the mainstream LGBT community is the whole message of it gets better, which I think is fine in some instances, but I think also sometimes we can't afford to wait for it to get better.
I really hope to see in the future more trans representation in media and in sports. I think we really need trans people to be visible to everyone.
I do want to open up my own used bookstore in the future, and I definitely want it to be very LGBTQIA, all the other letters oriented and very involved in the community.
I hope that in the future our rights can be respected, and that the visibility of trans people will bring about that change, much as it has done for the LGBT community.
Why these divisions? Why these lines that we all draw?
Even just have that simple acceptance by people when you tell them, you know, I'm LGBTQ, I'm whatever I am, I don't identify as male or female, anything. It's just to fight for that simple acceptance of people just going, oh, okay, and not, you know, knowing that in their brains they're just like, God, you are disgusting or something like that, is just the hardest battle anyone could ever fight.
My advice would be, you know, if you're struggling or needing support, I would encourage folks to go out and get involved. Practice self-care and do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. One thing that really helped me when I was struggling was finding API Equality LA and getting involved in the community and you know, meeting really awesome folks and surrounding myself with that kind of support.
So I feel the future of queer politics, especially in the SGV, is just, there's only one motto, just to keep going, because with every progressive movement, it just, you have to keep fighting for, you know, something you believe in, something you want.
So I hope that all of you watching this maybe can just give a thought to helping to make society a little bit more inclusive and open and more compassionate. Everyone's different. You don't have to like those differences, but differences are what makes the world a better place. I'm just a regular person, just like you, although some of you might be exceptional. I'm sure of that.
And the only thing that you can do is just keep going until people understand that we are here, we are strong, and there's nothing that can stop us at this point. So go SGV.
So thanks for your time, and I wish you well.
In this box of mine, it's getting much better, it's getting much better. I lose when I use my mind. It's getting much better, it's getting much better. Hip-hop politicians, everybody's learned to listen. Overseas can use their ears, but not their heads with these revisions. Hip-hop politicians, everybody's learned to listen. Overseas can use their ears, but not their heads with these revisions. Have it crossed your mind? Cause I'm getting much better, one beat at a time. Dad's back from the hide and seek games. He's shooting but he's missing and he barely knows my name.